Now, I know a lot of people might find this a little shocking, but this was actually my wife's last can of beer. And at the time it was unopened. I found it still full beer, and it was actually in her nightstand next to her bed. And I found it, after I came home from the hospital. I remember the last time. And it's really an example of just the madness that alcoholics go through, but also their families. And one of the big red flags with alcohol use disorder is that they will hide their cans, their bottles all over the house. And after my wife passed away, we found, I think, 50 cans or so underneath the bed. I found them behind bookshelves, underneath furniture, in the flower garden, and even in the, she had like hidden compartments in her BMW that she had. It's just crazy. It's one of the big red flags. Also, drinking in isolation, drinking by themselves. And it really all centers around the isolation that this disease thrives on. So it's so important to understand that isolation and learn from it, because connection is the opposite of alcoholism. And I really talk about this one can. It was a Coors Light. People say, well, why was she drinking that? Was she, near the end of her life, she was drinking anything she could get her hands on. If she had friends would bring stuff over, she would drink stuff she didn't even like. And I think this was cheap, and she had some kind of access to it. But this is kind of what was her choice, and it had a lower content of alcohol in it. So that was her way of trying to cut back. So instead of drinking 11-12% wine, she's drinking 3.5% beer. But if you drink 30 of these a day, it's kind of a mute issue, and it's really sad. I actually ended up drinking this about the year after she died. I drank it as a 1-year memorial to her, and I remember I made a video about it about 3 years ago. She died a little over 4 years ago. And I just kind of always kept this can just as a memorial of that time. And I really make this video for awareness. So if you have a family member who is hiding their bottles and cans underneath the furniture all over their house, well, it's an indication that they have a much more serious problem, because they don't want to be exposed. They don't want to be found out. They might think of themselves as a functioning alcoholic, or maybe they're in denial and they don't think they have a problem at all, and they just don't want to be found out. And you might say, well, why don't they just throw them in the garbage? Well, if you live with other people and you drink maybe a 12-pack a night, I mean, that's, you're pushing 100 cans of beer a week, and that's difficult to hide. That's, if you're drinking 450 cans of beer a month, that's really difficult to hide. You got to crush them and find places to put them. And that's a reality. But if you see that, and if they're drinking in isolation, those two kind of go hand in hand, well, it's time to step in and have the difficult conversations. And to be honest with you, I hope my wife's mistakes help other people. I really do. That's really the whole point why I keep this. And it was very sad. It reminds me of a very sad time, and just a failure to overcome a disease. And the real thing is, if you can seek it out and understand it before it gets into the later stages, you have a much higher probability to nip it in the bud. If you can get people to group therapy and get, take the medications, the blockers to stop the cravings, and work on the behavior issue. And, the person needs to work on connections, and they need to reinvent themselves, essentially. And if they have the ability to do that, well, I hope this single can of beer represents their success. I really do. So, one Coors Light beer. I hope it helps. And again, if you're ready to work with me one-on-one, I've helped thousands of alcoholics. I really like to bring the family in and the alcoholic themselves. It's important. It's a family disease. It's important to educate everybody involved. But every case is different, so it's very customized. Very important. Set up a call. The breakthrough call link is in the link tree. Set up a calendar call. Also, please like, share, and comment. We also have a Facebook group called An Alcoholic in the Family. It's the new Facebook group. And also, I go live every night, Monday through Friday, right around 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 9 o'clock East Coast. And again, thank you for listening.